Lexi ice skates effortlessly and gracefully while her favorite music plays in the background. She transitions into dancing and spinning without a care, feeling herself getting lost in the music. Once she's done, she moves past what looks like a frozen graveyard while leaving a kiss on one of the tombstones. When she walks off the ice and onto the concrete, she takes off her ice skates and announces that she's back when she enters her home. She's starving, and her dad's been planning his cash crops for the next year. He complains that it gets harder to outsmart the market every year. He inquires about her time at the frozen pond, and she responds that it was good. He's been thinking about her graduation, unlike her, who hasn't given it any thought yet. She informs him that her boyfriend Nick is coming home soon, which isn't relevant to her father. But she continues to report that he goes to college and is home for a pickup game tonight at the rink. Her father retaliates that when one goes to college, they're supposed to stay there until graduation. She ignores his cynicism and invites him too, as she'll try to get a little practice beforehand tonight. That evening, Lexi skates at the rink while also teaching kids about how to improve their techniques. Nick arrives there too and is already celebrated as last year's MVP. Lexi does an amazing trick, but no one sees it except her Aunt Jane. Lexi's father meets up with Nick, who is back from Michigan State, and mocks his skating skills teasingly, even though he's on his way to go pro. Before his game starts, Nick hypes up Lexi on the triple she did and steps onto the ice. Aunt Jane brings up that the Iowa Invitational Junior Championships are in Cedar Rapids this weekend, and Lexi has seen the posters for it too. She wonders if Aunt Jane wants to attend the event with her, but learns that she wants her to sign up for it. She elaborates that Lexi has been skating since she could walk, and is really good at it. It's about time that she shows someone her skills, and that's what Lexi's mother would have wanted too. She pushes Lexi to compete instead of skating just for fun. She suggests they use the program from Christmas, which is also the one Lexi's mother played. But Lexi is very hesitant to compete. The next day, she runs into Nick as they're skating on the pond together. He wants her to give him a chance to cheer on her for a change. He makes her really happy as they play Marco Polo on the frozen pond on Lexi's farm. He repeats that it'll be fun if Lexi goes for it, and she conveys that it won't be as good because he'll be in school around that time. Nick assures her that he'll come back for her before he finally catches her and spins her around. He teaches her that she'll regret it if she doesn't go, and she finally gives in, admitting that she hasn't been to Cedar Rapids in a while anyway. He gives her a kiss to show how proud he is of her. On the day of the invitational, the presenter announces the arrival of Olympic silver medalist Aiden Reynolds, while Lexi navigates her way around her figure skating peers. She watches a participant's routine and bites her lip in anxiety when Nick shows up there. Lexi's father and Aunt Jane are also there to support her, and they all try to make her less nervous. Lexi is impressed by the other figure skaters, which isn't common, as the other girls stay envious of each other and display poor sportsmanship. After a girl named Carol Sanders is done performing, it's Lexi's turn now, representing the Ice Castle Skating Club in Windsor. As her loved ones cheer for her, some mean girls criticize her simple black outfit, insinuating that it's a reflection of her humble background. With her father's instruction to have fun and Nick's reminder of how much he loves her, Lexi starts her routine. Soft music plays in the background as she makes smooth movements on the ice with poise and grace. Her father watches intently, as he didn't know that she was going to skate to this particular piece, which he associates with his late wife. Lexi's performance also manages to catch Aiden's attention, who is here for talent scouting. The audience applauds Lexi when she executes some difficult techniques, and Nick holds his breath, silently rooting for her. The crowd goes wild with appreciation when the song concludes, bringing Lexi's performance to an end. Nick gives Lexi a hug, and her father expresses how proud her mother would have been of her today. When Lexi's scores are announced, the audience collectively boo, because they think that she's being robbed of points. They protest how little she scored, but everyone agrees that she did really well. Aiden takes notice of all of this and drives to Lexi's hometown to see her. Aunt Jane questions him about his previous client, a new figure skater called Carrie. He vaguely states that they no longer work together and redirects his attention to Lexi. While Aiden agrees with Nick on the fact that Lexi did great, he also points out that everything she did was level 1, so she can easily turn into a serious competitor with the right training, hard work, and a higher profile. Lexi argues that she only skates for fun, and Aiden recognized that in her performance. But he also makes her think about how much fun it would be if she won a competition. He adds that she owes it to herself to do much better, because she's capable of it. He incentivizes her with the opportunity to see how far she can go in the world that lies out there, unexplored. He tells Lexi's father, Mr. Winston, that she is a natural on the ice. She is a bit late in the game, but she has the strength and poise that the younger girls don't possess. Nick also chimes in, boasting that she can land a triple as well. Aiden goes on about how skating these days is a total package of athleticism, emotion, and glamour. In his point of view, Lexi's got 2 of these 3, and he's interested in coaching her for the upcoming regionals, even though there is very little time. He's about to leave when Aunt Jane confirms where he trains. He gives them an ultimatum to decide until tomorrow, or else he'll move on to someone new. This puts Lexi and her family in a tricky situation, as they all have concerns of their own. Lexi confides in Nick about how she's reluctant to take this opportunity, because it will leave her dad all by himself. Nick argues that Mr. Winston is a sharp guy who can survive on his own. Lexi explains that he hasn't been alone since the demise of his wife, but Nick points out that she can't plan on living with her dad for the rest of her life. Lexi also poses the question of what effect this decision would have on their relationship, and he assures her that they're rock solid. Plus, he'll also be in school most of the time, during which he'll miss her anyway. But he also cheers her up by planning to see her in a few weeks at one of his games. He communicates how exciting this is for both of them, as he is the future famous Red Wings star, and she is destined to be an Olympic champion figure skater. They fight in the snow, and he kisses her one last time before heading back to his college. Lexi skates at her father's farm one last time before she lands in the big city of Boston, to be taken under Aiden's wing. She is in awe of the huge hotel, where she will be staying with the rest of the figure skaters competing in the regionals. A woman guides her to her room and briefs her on how everyone is nice here, but she might get the cold shoulder just because she's the new girl. Lexi is given her own room and is strictly told to eat at the hotel and work all the time, instead of wandering around town. Next on the tour is the workout room, which has all the aerobics, strength, and stretching equipment, as it is a big deal for Aiden. On her inquiry, Lexi discovers that Aiden is one of several coaches who use Boston Club as a base for coaching figure skaters. Lexi is also curious about what happened with Carrie Turner, who is the girl Aiden used to coach before her. It turns out that Carrie jumped ship last week, right after winning the Colorado Invitational, to train with another coach named Frank Carroll. The woman warns Lexi that this is a sensitive topic for Aiden, as he's still bent on it. Lexi also discovers that the club has 2 full-time physical trainers who can also do massages. So if she pulls something, it can get fixed quickly to avoid wasting time. Ballet classes are also offered to help with the girls' posture and movements. Lexi is explicitly told that this is her chance to make it in the real world, so she mustn't blow it. On the other hand, Nick also works hard during his training to stand out from his peers. Lexi's training begins with the awareness that a coach is only as good as their best skater. Aiden is in need of a new star, and he's hoping that one of the girls he is coaching will emerge soon in the spotlight. Lexi realizes that the potential is endless here, as Aiden takes his competitors to nationals and world championships too. Aiden welcomes Lexi to Boston and shows her the other girls training with their coaches. He says how she takes on the ice right now will go a long way in determining whether it's her or them skating here after regionals. Lexi nods her head optimistically and circles around the rink, causing all the girls to whisper among themselves and gossip about her. Aiden knows that he's off to a good start, but doesn't hype Lexi too much. That night, Nick shares with Lexi that he scored 2 goals today as they're talking on the phone. Lexi admits that her experience is sort of strange, but also great. She is having a little difficulty getting used to this new place and new life, but is amazed by how great of a coach Aiden is. She never knew she could skate like this, and Nick is so glad that they're both on their way up. He is super excited for his first game, where he'll get to see her, and informs her that if everything goes well, he might get drafted early, which wouldn't require him to stay in college. During Lexi's training, Aiden works to make her turns cleaner and more dramatic, as she needs to be at least level 3 if she wants to be competitive. Regionals begin in less than 3 weeks, so she must go over the taught sequences every waking moment. She gets so engrossed in her training and progress that she misses a few calls from Nick, who seems to have some issues with his coach now. One day, Carrie comes over to the club and all the girls surround her. Lexi assumes that she came back to say goodbye, but the truth is that she came here to size up her competition. Carrie is the same girl who looked down upon Lexi at the invitational for her outfit, and laughs when she watches Lexi fall. With zero remorse, she makes a dig about how the talent pool is slim these days, and condescendingly wishes Lexi luck. Aiden has been watching all this, but stays focused on getting Lexi to reach her maximum potential. He decides that they need to create some buzz, and let the whole skating world know that Lexi is a force to be reckoned with. Lexi gets a full-blown makeover, and is getting her hair styled at the salon when she finally gets the chance to call Nick back. He complains about all the times he gets sent to her voicemail, and she apologizes, explaining how busy she has been. When Nick learns of her makeover, he assumes that she hasn't really been busy and has been avoiding him all this time. He ends the call because he can't hear her over the sound of the blow dryer anyway. Lexi is all dolled up and gets her photo shoot done, and Aiden assures her that she looks absolutely beautiful. On their way out, they're packed, and Aiden introduces her to everyone as his new lead figure skater. It's finally time for Lexi's regional debut, and her dad and Aunt Jane visit to support her. Mr. Winston compliments her on how she looks like a pretty young woman, but Aunt Jane consoles him that it's just performance makeup, and he still has his little daughter. Carrie is incredibly good, and Aiden and Lexi both watch her performance closely because they have to top it. When she's done, she mocks Aiden and Lexi one last time. Aiden explains to Lexi that she's just trying to rattle her, but she's nervous enough as is. Aiden motivates her through a pep talk before Lexi is called to the rink. She's representing the Boston Skating Club now and starts her performance with flair and energy. Crescendo builds up in the dramatic music of her program, and she lands all her spins on beat. She gets a standing ovation when her performance ends, and the audience shower her with praise and flowers. She hugs her parents and coaches when she gets off the rink and listens to her score, which declares that she won second place at the regionals and is on her way to the sectionals now. They are surrounded by the press at that moment, and Lexi continues to smile, even though she is overwhelmed by the pressing amount of attention on her. Moments later, Aiden takes her aside and warns her that if she ever pulls a stunt like this again, she'll be out in no time. Lexi is confused, and he strongly emphasizes that she can't add, change, or place a jump unless he tells her to do so. He reprimands her for doing a tripe because it wasn't a part of their routine, and she argues that she did it because she could. He argues that it was sloppy, which cost them points. He orders her to go home with her dad right now. If she intends to keep up with this carefree attitude, she tears up and begs him to let her stay. So he gives her another chance. Lexi later calls Nick, and it goes to voicemail because their busy schedules no longer match with each other. She's been missing him more than usual after the regionals and can't wait to come to his game. After the call, Lexi wears her silver medal and smiles at herself in the mirror, desperately trying to hold back the tears from erupting inside her. When she smiles at a text that she got from Nick, the assistant coach warns her to not get caught using the phone by Aiden. Lexi realizes that the people around her don't want her to waste her time in a relationship and view her boyfriend as a distraction. Nick leaves Lexi a message expressing how excited he is to wave at her when he'll step out on the field. Aiden catches up on Lexi's plan to fly to Michigan for Nick's game and forbids her, even if it'll only make her miss 2 days of practice. Nick seriously feels Lexi's absence at his game and misses out on his chance to make himself stand out from the other players. He reviews footage of him lacking at his game when he receives a voice message from Lexi apologizing for not showing up. Lexi is later questioned by the press regarding her love life, and Aiden advises against disclosing that she has a boyfriend to keep up her mystery. With time, Lexi earns a lot of fame and attention from the media, and she enjoys being recognized for her work. She ends up on the cover of an international sports magazine, and Nick also buys a copy of it. They talk about it over video call as they try to find a time slot in their busy practice schedules to see if any one of them can visit the other. Nick confronts Lexi about the fact that the magazine reports that she's single, and this leads to them facing the reality that their relationship is failing, despite their efforts. Lexi breaks down into tears due to her breakup with Nick, and later skates to take her mind off of it. Similarly, Nick distracts himself by giving it his all at his practice sessions. Aiden catches Lexi in a skating session that seems more emotional than professional, and he checks up on her. She keeps to herself and keeps attempting a difficult move, which leads to her falling many times. Aiden helps her up and gives her a hug to comfort her. Nick stands up to his coach, who keeps him on the bench for most of the season. He can't put up with this any longer because he knows what he's worth as a player. His coach doesn't agree with him, so he's taken off his team. Aiden commands Lexi to sit on a snowmobile, and she only complies on the condition that she is allowed to drive it. So he takes the back seat and is surprised by how expertly she drives the snowmobile. Carrie is interviewed by the press too, and it's obvious that everyone is pitting her against Lexi. The day of the sectionals arrives, and the press is already speculating a romance between Lexi and Aiden. Carrie delivers a flawless performance, and now it's time for Lexi to showcase her skills. Interestingly, Nick is also in the audience with flowers and a present for her, to apologize to her and make up. He is immediately impressed by the risky moves she's making and applauds her, falling in love all over again. His eyes remain fixated on her as her song performance ends with a standing ovation, after which she runs into Aiden's arms. He calls out to her and is trying to get near her when he witnesses her kissing Aiden. Her eyes finally meet with Nick's, who has a hurt expression on his face. Lexi is announced as the champion of the sectionals, while Nick leaves the game heartbroken. Lexi is concerned, but continues to claim her success and enjoy her victory. That evening, she attends a fancy mixer with Aiden, where he markets her, and she is congratulated by everyone, who believes that she has a bright future ahead. Regardless of all this, she feels out of place and requests Aiden to leave the party. He claims that these are important people who can make or break their whole careers, but she wants to go somewhere else, where it's just the two of them. He convinces her to stay a bit longer, after which he'll abide by her wishes. Lexi calls her father, who already knows that he won't be seeing his daughter because of how busy she is making a name in the world. She seeks his opinion on whether she seems all right, which shows how lost she's feeling right now. Her dad recommends visiting home for a short while to get her bearings back, but she knows that's impossible. She ends the call after getting some reassurance from her dad, but the uneasiness still doesn't go away. So she ditches the party and starts to skate out front, which intrigues everyone at the mixer. Aiden is among the people watching her from the window when she suffers a terrible fall. People rush her to the hospital, but she ends up losing her sight due to the accident nevertheless. Mr. Winston is told that a miracle might save her, but other than that, her sight is limited to some light perception only. He takes Lexi home to help her adjust to her blindness and bring her back some sense of normalcy. Aiden manages to keep the doctors silent about this and informs the press that she only broke her arm. Lexi is certain that it's over for her due to her blindness. She breaks things off with Aiden too, because he loves skating and winning, which is something she can't do anymore. Her dad helps her get reacquainted with living at the farm as a blind person, and Aunt Jane cares for her. Lexi stays closed off in her room and doesn't step out of the house for days. When her dad has had enough, he drags her out of bed and takes her to the frozen pond to skate with his assistants. He recalls bringing her here as a kid with her mom and guides her on the ice. Lexi insists that she's not ready when Nick shows up and criticizes her for being a coward. It turns out that Mr. Winston called him here, and he leaves them alone, ignoring Lexi's protests. They talk about all the distance that built up between them, and they both have gained clarity about where they went wrong. They accept their mistakes, and she trusts him to get her back into skating. They go to the rink when no one is around, and he becomes familiar with her surroundings, while also making her independent. She regains her skills soon enough, because he treats her like a normal person, while also highlighting her positive aspects. Nick even goes as far as blindfolding himself while moving on the rink to see what she experiences. Surprisingly, he scores a goal even when blindfolded, which means that his skills have come a long way too. One day, he takes her to the frozen pond and teaches her to use her memory instead of sight to skate on it, like she always did. This works, and she properly smiles after ages. Mr. Winston is aware of all the time and effort Nick has been putting into Lexi and appreciates it. Spending time with Lexi also gives Nick some perspective, and he gets back his place in the team by reconciling with his coach. It doesn't take Lexi long to admit how much she misses seeing Nick's face and kisses him. Nick comes up with the idea of her still competing at nationals and convinces Lexi and her family to go along with it, because he doesn't want her dream to be crushed because of a setback. He intends to not let anyone know about her disability and compete like she always meant to. With his unwavering faith in her, Lexi learns the dimensions of the rink she'll be competing in. Michelle Kwan is the chief guest at the nationals, and Carrie's leaves a good impression on her. Before her turn, Lexi runs into Aiden, who still blames himself for her injury, because she was his responsibility. She promises that the accident wasn't his fault, and thanks him for bringing her into this world. Everyone is looking forward to Lexi's evocative performance, and she fulfills their expectations by skating with her heart and envisioning herself on the frozen pond. Nick is filled with pride as the crowd goes crazy for Lexi's performance, and a tear rolls down his cheek. Lexi falls as she's returning to him, because of all the flowers and stuffed bears showered on her. Nick gets on the ice to guide her back, now that her secret is out. Nevertheless, everyone loves her and applauds as she kisses him in front of everyone, fearlessly and lovingly.